I'd like to share with you a very interesting conversation that I had with a new client of mine. It's my hope that what I shared with him is a help to you the way it was to him. He is 35 years old. He's a single father of one. He came to me and said, Doc, I'm in a 2-year relationship with a 27-year-old woman. She has no kids. And he says that the relationship has been off and on, very hot and cold, throughout this 2-year period of time, and he's confused about what to do next. I said, what's been going on? He said, well, she says 1 minute that she is committed to me and to the future. She's even called me her soulmate. The next minute, her behaviors are very inconsistent with her words. I said, okay. I said, what do you think the problem is? He said, well, I think it could be 3 things. And a very bright man, he was prepared for the call. He had his notebook and everything. I said, do you have these things recorded down? He said, yeah. And it really boiled down to 3 things. I said, what are they? He said, well, number one, he said it could possibly be 3 things. Number one, she's not ready to commit. And he said, this is kind of baffling because she said in the beginning that she was, but she's not very consistent, even in breakups. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, there have been periods of time where we've fallen out and been upset with one another. And instead of her healing or us trying to communicate and work it out, she goes out and she dates other people. I said, within the 2-year period of time? He said, yes, sir. I said, how many times did this happen? He said, well, she's dated 4 other people within this 2-year period of time. And he said, that's 4 that he knows of. He said, he's not all the way sure. He said, but since they've been off and on, she has verified 4 people that she has dated during that period of time. I said, interesting. I said, how many have you dated? He said, none. I love her. So what does that mean to you? He said, well, how can you love someone and move on and date other people at the same time? I said, sir, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But welcome to the times we live in. There are a lot of people that are in love with folks and actually dating everybody else but the person they're in love with. And doesn't make sense to me at all either. So I appreciate that. I said, okay, what's the second thing? He looked at his paper. He said, my son. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, my son's 5. He has a great co-parenting relationship with his son's mother. She seemed cool about that in the beginning. But he said in his mind, he's thinking, well, she doesn't have any kids. She's relatively young, 27, maybe. She doesn't want to be with someone with kids anymore. And he said, if that's the case, all she has to do is say so. I would understand that, being a stepmom, potential stepmom is not for everybody. I said, well, I understand that too. I said, but why do you think the son might be the real issue? He said, for me, it's not a problem at all. And he made it very clear to me, he's a CPA. He's a very attractive man. And he said he's had no problem attracting women at all, but just thinks that maybe she doesn't want that and it might be a possibility. I said, okay, well, we don't have the verification on that. You're not sure. I said, but this is all hypothetical. I appreciate your preparedness. I said, what's number 3? He said, well, perhaps she thinks that she's too young for marriage. I said, that's interesting. What do you mean by that? He said, well, Doc, she's never said it, but when we met, she was all on board for us being together. Again, she called me her soulmate, said she could see herself being with me. My son at the time, I think, was 2 or 3. And she was okay with our situation and, the co-parenting situation that I have with my son's mom. Everything was checking the box. But he said, Doc, she's never really seen a successful marriage. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, she was raised by a single mother. Her mother had her at the age of 16. And he said, I was thinking about a very specific conversation she had with him where she said that her mom told her that she needs to live her life in her 20s. Don't worry about a serious relationship. Don't worry about settling down. Don't worry about getting married, but she needs to live her life in her 20s and worry about a husband when she gets older. I said, interesting. And he said, Doc, to me, this is problematic. He said, I, like her, come from a black family, and I have been able to see both of my parents divorced when I was a teenager. Both of them got remarried, and now both of them are happily married. And not only are they happily married, they're now at a place where everybody gets along between the marriages. I said, man, that's phenomenal. You don't really see that a lot. I said, all right, these are three good things. And let me just give you some thoughts on this. And then I want to share something with you that I think maybe summarizes where she is. I said, number one, in today's time, a lot of women are more interested in the idea of marriage than actually being married. And I know this actually offends a lot of people, but it's the notion of being married versus the work of being married that in my work and all the data that I have, I'm seeing the differences here. And there are a lot of culprits to blame, but I think one of them is social media influence. That marriage has been glamorized so much in social media, pop culture, that the part that has not been glamorized, that needs to be glamorized, is all the work that it takes to maintain a marriage. And I said, you don't see that a lot. And so a lot of women, especially, yeah, you may have some men that may glamorize it, but overwhelmingly, the data says that women glamorize it more than the actual work of marriage. How is my dress going to look? How is my ring going to look? How many people are going to be at the wedding? That kind of stuff, which really none of that will save a marriage. He said, I understand that a lot, sir. I said, so that's a challenge you've got. I said, then you've got this challenge regarding commitment. And today's culture really struggles with the idea of commitment. Our culture has a general challenge with commitment for two reasons. And I like to call them the two illusions of commitment. And those illusions are time and options. There are a lot of people that struggle with commitment because they're under this illusion that they have a lot of time to get married, right? Hey, I'm too young to get married. I don't have to get married in my 20s. I'm going to wait until I'm in my late 20s, my early 30s, and then I'm going to find a husband. Well, the problem is there are some cultures that actually teach their young girls to prepare for marriage early. And then there are some cultures that do not purport that message. And it is really a message that is damaging marriages in certain cultures. I said, you mentioned having come from a proud Black family. I said, I do as well. I was actually having this conversation with someone recently. And that is that I believe a lot of Black parents have ruined the chances of their daughters finding suitable mates because they tell them in their 20s, hey, girl, live your life. Don't worry about a husband. And by the time they finish partying and doing everything that they do, it's too late to find a husband because all the good ones are gone. And then they have to settle for what they can get, or they decide they want the ones that are already taken. It's just so many different scenarios. I said, so we've got to do a better job of teaching both men and women that you don't have as much time as you think you do. And two, this whole idea of having a lot of options is really an illusion. You don't have as many options as you think you do, because if you did, you would be married. I said, so that's that. And then I said, finally, the whole data mall philosophy really sucks. Man, woman, whatever you claim to be, I think it's a poor approach. I said, where are you right now? He said, I'm in Starbucks. I said, perfect. I said, are you using the Wi-Fi? He said, yes, sir. I said, are other people in Starbucks using the Wi-Fi? He said, it looks like a lot of people are. I said, what happens if you end up in a situation, in a space where everybody's on the Wi-Fi? Does the Wi-Fi get slower or faster? He started laughing and said, no, doc, don't do this. I said, no, answer the question. I said, does it get slower or faster? He said, it gets slower. I said, why? He said, because everybody's crowding the hotspot. I said, sir, she's not your soulmate. She's a hotspot because she's spending her time allowing all types of people to plug into her. I don't necessarily mean that literally. You can take it that way if you want to, but it is the fact that she's entertaining so many connections with other people that it slows down her performance with who? He said, with me. I said, sir, you've got to recognize a thing for what it is and call a thing and understand that some people are just not interested in serious commitment like they claim to be. Be honest enough about that and accept it and then move on with your life. And I'm pleased to say he cut off that relationship and he's now in the healing process so that he can be the best version of himself. I hope this story made sense. If it did, type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then remember, you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you. Finally got a Facebook and YouTube community group where we're going to have exclusive content, exclusive shorts, exclusive discussion prompts, where we're going to engage with other people literally around the world who are on the same healing journey that we're on. I need you to go find these pages right now on Facebook and YouTube. Inspire Nation, follow the page, join the group, introduce yourself, and be prepared to link up with literally thousands of people around the world who are on the same healing journey, who are looking for the same resources, and who want to also be surrounded with other like-minded individuals who are growing in the same direction as you are. I'm so excited about this because it's the beginning of some great things I can't talk about right now. Listen, you got two jobs. One, be better today than what you were yesterday. And two, don't forget what I told you.